we're starting from, isn't it?
Yes, start now.
Okay. So, right. So are we starting at 47? Yes?
47, there are three consequences come from this following. 2.13, 1.3.
As long as, excuse me, as long as those colorings remain at the root, three consequences are produced. One, birth, span of life, and three, experiences in that life. So the entire principle of karma, which literally translates as actions, is that the deep impressions or samskaras that are colored, klishta, leads to the further playing out of karma. That karma is of three kinds. Type of birth. First, those colored impressions lead you to this or that type of birth in this or that circumstances. Second, the span of life. There is a built-in span of life programmed in, though that span can be altered by decisions and actions during life. Experiences. Third, you will quite naturally have many experiences related to those impressions as they become active and play themselves out.
Okay, stop 1 moment, because I like you to put more attention in these three very important point. Do you want to say something about, for example, type of the birth?
Yeah, well, it depends.
What does mean? What does mean type of the birth? What's happened?
As far as I understand it, is that it's your birth into the kind of environment that will be relevant for those experiences and karmic actions to be played out. So it could be human, it could be animal, it could be plant or something else.
So for example, remember we talk about some people, they don't know about this. Yeah, it is very important. So in a simple word, the type of the bird means where you born, your parents, and probably yeah, the physical aspect of yourself. So
Yes.
for example, if you are tall, or if you are short, or if you are big, or if you are blind or not, you know, this is the type of the birth. Is a part of your karma, no?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a simple word. What do you think? Okay, nobody wants to talk about it. Yeah.
It's just the circumstances in which we are born in, right?
So, yes. For example, if you born in London, no? Or if you born in Madagascar, make a difference.
Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes.
Definitely.
But this is the whole point, isn't it? That your birth, place, and the environment, whether it is the parents that you're born to or the family you're born to, the location you're born in, etc., all will depend on the colored impressions or the karmic action that you need to work through, as far as I understand it. Sense?
Okay.
Yep.
Carry on if you want. It's fine.
Excuse me. The span of life, I found a little bit. Siriji, could you please just go up a bit where it talks about span of life? There's a built-in, yeah, this is, there's a built-in span of life program in, though that span can be altered by decision and actions. So, like how in the East it says that, you're born with that many breaths, and once they are finished, you're gone. So does it mean that that span can be changed while you are living. That's what this seems to tell me, this statement.
I think you need to be careful there, because if you look at the breath, the creatures which breathe very fast don't have a long lifespan. Creatures which breathe very slowly have a very long lifespan. So, for example, a fly has only a few hours or a few days lifespan, and if you look at the way they breathe, it's very, very fast. Whereas if you look at a turtle, it breathes very slowly. You can live to about 400, 500, 600 years. All right. So what I'm guessing here is that if you, depending on how you breathe over the lifespan, will depend upon how long you live, etc. But there will also be a little spanner in the works in terms of your environmental circumstances. If our friend Putin decided to drop an atomic bomb here, we're all going to be gone quickly. It doesn't matter how long a lifespan we've had, because even if you think about it, even that will mean that all our breaths will be used up very, very quickly, and we will go that way. So it's a factor of how you breathe, how you live, and your environment as well. So it's going to be all of those, but all of those will influence how your breath works. So, if you've got 10 million breaths left, then you may use up those 10 million breaths very quickly or over a very long time. If that makes sense. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know if anybody else has really got any other views on that.
Isn't it affected by past actions? That's how I interpret it.
What do you mean past actions? Sorry, explain.
Like karmic actions, that the lifespan will be however long, depending on whatever karmic features you bring into this life.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense as well. I suppose that's part of it as well. But then what the way I'm looking at it is that there'll be obviously when you come into this life, there'll be your life that you get is based on past actions, but how you conduct yourself in this life is also going to make a difference. So there are two elements to it, as far as I can see.
How does the coloring lead to these three consequences?
Say that again. How does it coloring?
It says coloring leads to three consequences. So I'm just trying to figure out how coloring leads to this.
Yeah.
Because you have action, but you have also coloring.
Yeah, but don't the actions create the colorings?
Yeah.
No.
Just trying to show us how these mindful actions can actually help us recognize and shape whatever experiences one goes through. No?
So say that again, Sam.
That it's teaching us to be more mindful towards whatever thoughts and actions we have to shape our future experiences and cultivate consciousness, be more compassionate, and be more responsible about the way we actually live. No?
No, yes. I mean, ultimately, yes, it would be, but I'm just, maybe I'm putting too much into it, because I just want to know how coloring, when your thoughts are colored or leads to these three consequences. The entire principle of karma actions is that the deep impression that are colored. So how does it
Doesn't the coloring, isn't the coloring indicate what your impressions are about various things? So that is your coloring, isn't it? And depending upon what impressions you had in your previous lifetime, you're bringing those forward into this life, and then those impressions that you inherit, as it were, from birth, are then the basis of your actions and the basis of further coloring. So, for example, you have an inherent fear of, I don't know, spiders, for example, that may have been that is a coloring. You know, spiders are not that harmful, but you're fearful of them. So that is an impression or a coloring that you have brought forward from somewhere, some maybe in a past lifetime or some other experience, and then your actions going forward will be very much dictated by that fear of spiders. So, for example, if you see a spider in a house or somewhere, you'll run a mile, or you shout and scream and get somebody else to try and get rid of them or something. You know, so that's the sort of coloring that it's referring to us.
How would it come into your next life?
I think you don't even know that these imprints are sometimes given into the next life, because you may have some anxieties or fears, like Tusha was saying, but you can't even pinpoint where it comes from. It's so
But
deep.
it says it gives you a type of birth.
Yeah, but that's
Because of these colored impressions, you get a particular type of birth, a type of life, and a type of experience.
Yeah. So take the example of the spiders. If you are living in the Arctic, you don't get access to spiders. But if you have been fearful of spiders in your previous life and you want to now try and overcome that in this new life, you will want to have a birth in the middle of Africa or in the middle of a warm country where you have spiders. So you have experience of the spiders, you'll encounter them, and therefore you'll try and overcome those colorings or aversions or whatever you would like to call it. Does that make sense?
That would be a desire.
Yeah, could be a desire. Yeah, if you think about it that way, yes, absolutely. You know, I want to make lots of money in my next life, so that's one of the desires. So you may be born into an environment where you've got opportunities to make money in different ways, or you get born into a family that's very wealthy. So, and you experience that. So it could be anything, yes.
But that is a desire. But is that the same thing as a karma? Action.
Desire leads to karma.
Desires lead to actions, and actions lead to other desires, don't they? It's
a cycle.
Cycle. If you think about it, every action you take is based on your desires, your responses, your emotional and mental responses. And the consequence of taking that action, you then have further emotional reactions and other action responses to the new action that you've taken. So that is a continuous cyclic process, which the sutras are talking about how to help you to break that cycle over time. But otherwise, your life, birth, and death is a cyclic process as well, because of that. That's the way I've understood it.
Okay, maybe the diagram explains better.
Sorry, didn't hear that. Say that again.
There's a diagram on there, which I think probably will explain better.
Yeah, okay. All right, so altering the samskaras. Describing this process is setting the stage for the means of altering those deep impressions. The point of this sutra is that these consequences play out only as long as the root samskaras are there and that they remain colored. If the coloring is reduced or removed, then the consequences are altered. Remember, once again, the foundation principle of yoga has to do with these colorings as was presented in chapter 1. Okay, so in that diagram, you've got center of the consciousness, avidya, or ignorance. Then you have the 4 prime fountains, which result in deep impressions of various types, samskaras. Those are action through emotions of desire and karma. You either fulfill them or you don't fulfill them. That will result in different kind of emotions depending on which way it happens. The emotion of the ahankara or ego, and that will generate thoughts accordingly and will then generate further actions and speech, which is what we're talking about. This is a cycle. And those actions and speech will go back into your center of consciousness somewhere, and it'll continue in that manner. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, if you want to read the question,
Yep.
the question is 48.
In what two ways are these consequences experienced? Yeah. So this is where it comes to.
Sorry, it's a 14. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Because of having the nature of merits or demerits, virtue or vice, these three, birth, span of life, and experiences, may be experienced as either pleasure or pain. There are three major parts in this short sutra, and each are important. One is the three consequences of birth, span of life, and experiences come as a result of the karma shaya, or samskaras, mentioned in the previous sutra. Those samskaras were imbued with the nature of either merit or demerit, punya or apunya, virtue or vice. Resulting from that, the play out or actions from those impressions might be experienced as either pain, paritaba, or pleasure, alda. These three consequences are the playing out of the kleshas, colored impressions or samskaras mentioned in the previous sutra will lead to experiences of one form or another. They will not just remain inert and will not just go away. They will definitely lead to some experiential effect. These deep impressions are so strong that they will also lead to birth. Thus, it has been said that desire is stronger than death, in that it causes rebirth. A part of the play out of the karma shaya is also that a certain duration comes along. This can make sense by simply reflecting on the notion that the stronger drives logically last longer than weaker ones. Okay. Merit or demerit. Though not purely accurate, it has become commonplace to speak of good karma or bad karma. In a broad sense, this is the meaning of punya or apunya. It means that when our actions lead to deep impressions or samskaras, they are either of a type or nature that leads in a positive, useful direction, or in a negative, unuseful direction. The nature of this merit or demerit, virtue or vice, goes along with the samskara itself, in that the samskara leads to the action, and this secondary quality comes along. Notice that cultivating punya versus apunya is one of the stabilizing practices introduced in Sutra 1.33. Okay. Pain or pleasure. Once the future actions start to play out as a result of the samskaras, the issue of merit or demerit will cause the actions to be experienced as either pain or pleasure. Planning your karma. By understanding this process, it becomes clear that one's actions can be planned in such a way that future karma is determined. This is described in the next this is described further in the next few sutras.
So when there is a pain, pleasure in any action, what do you think? When? Any action give you a pain? Why? Why give you a pain?
Because suffering arises. Suffering arises.
Yeah, but why are you suffering in this life?
Because you have an association with some harmful action.
Or you have an aversion, you don't want to do something, and to you it's painful. I don't want to go to school. You know, little kids say, I don't want to go to school. They don't like going to school, but they like going out and playing. That kind of stuff.
Isn't suffering our response to what's happening? When something, for example, something so-called bad happens in your life, one can take it as is and deal with it without getting your inner self affected by it. Right? And if your inner self is not in a balance or whatever, it will respond in a negative way. I don't know whether I made myself clear or not, but there is something to, if something bad happens in life, it is for one person to learn from it.
Yes.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. Learn from it, and next time another bad thing happens, then you don't respond as badly to it. And we need these bad, well, so-called bad things in our life, because otherwise spiritually we don't grow.
Not necessarily. The reason why we suffer is because we don't accept the change. This is the problem.
Yeah, it's our response, isn't it?
Yes.
Of not
But
accepting.
because we are not, doesn't matter what the event is. It's not important what the event, what's happened. The thing that is important is to accept the change. The world keeps changing, but we don't want things to change, and we don't like things to change. That's the problem.
Yeah, we get very comfortable in a particular lifestyle, whatever it may be, but it is always going to change anyway, because if you think about it, everything is changing in nature. Even your own body, every few hours has been modified in a very on a microscopic level. So whatever cells you had an hour ago have changed to something different. But that is this idea of that, you need to be accepting of the change and be able to move forward with the change. But also, I think that the factor is that you will have had experiences which you're bringing, which you need to work through in this life, and some other experiences you will feel very negative against because of whatever reason, and you're trying to fight very hard against it. Again, it depends on your what kind of mental state you come forward with as well. But yeah, you're right. We do need to we need to work through it whether or not we like it or not. And people do work through them whether they like it or not. But it's the reaction at the end of it. Then that's from what I'm reading here now, is that it's a reaction to it at the end that will decide what your next karmic action is going to be, and what karma you then build up for going forward for the future.
Yeah, one experience gets you, well, if you accept and deal with it, it gets you prepared in a better way the next time anything comes around. So I call that as part of a person's growth.
Yes.
Don't we talk about that is experiences of life? That's quite a common saying. Experiences of life change you. And like, I am not what I was even 10 years ago or 20 years ago, so life experiences are important, and I think they affect your karmas then as you grow. That's how I take it as. To make it simple, you don't have to understand these things. Sometimes the language is a bit too much for me. I have to understand it in simple, practical ways.
No.
I mean, there's two things. One thing is the change, and the other thing is our expectation. Those are the two main things that cause us suffering, because we expect something and it doesn't happen as our expectation.
But isn't it teaching us just to be more self-aware and to face the hardships and reflect on what is actually going on without judging? Then shift towards actions that bring harmony and kindness and understanding in everything we do as a result of the past causes, whatever karmas, experiences.
Yeah, because of past experiences and past habits, that causes further pain, because we expect something. and it doesn't happen, and that causes us suffering, because expectation is also desire.
Yeah, but that's one of the things which the sutras suggest, is in order to work through your karmas, that you do it without expectation. Just go through life and go through whatever events and experiences that you encounter without expectation, but acting on them with full, well, I can't think of the right phrase, but doing your best in those actions, but without an expectation of any kind of reward. And that is what they suggest will help to gradually diminish and eventually remove all your karmic collections, as it were. So in terms of the second bit, the planning your karma, this is one of the processes which they suggest in terms of planning how to clear those actions, clear them over time.
Well, I think, I'll probably jumping the gun now and going deeper. While we are here, I might as well just say it's because we think we are the doer. And if you are the doer, you will bind karma. This is the problem, because we get attached to the action. We take ownership. We say, I am doing it.
Yes. But if you're taking ownership, is that still, well, you have to take ownership, do you not? What happens if, so you can take ownership, but you can still take ownership and do the action without any expectation of future gain or reward, but just do the action for the sake of the action.
But the action is attached to you. But if you don't take ownership of the action, then you don't build the karma, because you are not the one who's doing the action.
Okay. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, let's think about that. Thank you.
The way it works is everything is happening through you.
Yeah.
Whatever action is happening, some other divine forces making it happen through you. You are just an instrument. You are not actually doing it. It's happening through you. That's what you have to keep in your awareness. Then you stop binding new karma and you start discharging your built-up karma from previous.
In other words, you are giving up the duality, correct? That, as you say, is the divine power in us, right? Which is getting, while we being as the mediums or the tools that these things are happening.
Yes.
Right. I go along with that more so. And then, but we also have this, I don't know what the English word for it's, intelligence or whatever, vivek buddhi that we call, but we have that how shall I say, that tool in us which can make the choices between good and bad also. You know, the two things work hand in hand. It's the divine working through us, but there is this too, like when we pray, we ask for that, give me this vivek buddhi, give me this buddhi, that I can see right from wrong and accept, and all these things are in there. So we are tools, but we also have this, I don't know what the English word would for.
Intellect.
The intellect, yes, you see, we have got that bit in us. But yes, I agree with you, this duality, it's when we think about others as another individual. But if you say the divine is in everybody, and if the other person is behaving in a certain way, for some reason, that's what's happening. And I need not respond But then again, you have to, if you have these bad colorings in you or so, you have to self-reflect, as Sam was saying. Self-reflection is important to go further, to move on. And next time, so that you respond differently and in a more balanced way, and that it doesn't affect, again, I have to use the word you know, as a person, because you are growing in that direction then. I don't know, in my simple way, this is how I think. I might be wrong.
That makes sense, actually.
It makes sense.
Yeah, makes good sense. I think no matter what action you take, because of the accumulated karmas,
Yeah.
you will have to gradually work your way through. But as long as you're aware that you're working your way through the karmas, your karmic actions are being used
Yes.
to gradually
Yeah.
work your way through to clear them.
Yeah. Yes.
This is where that is the most essential part of it, isn't it? That awareness of what you're doing it for, and therefore the approach, the attitude towards those actions is going to be absolutely vital.
But the underlying goal is to just not react to anything that is put in front of you, just to be aware and observe and not let it get to you.
Well, I don't think so much not react, but react in a way that's going to be relevant for that situation, but not expecting that just if I do this, I should expect this to happen. But just be aware that you're doing this action because that's what the situation requires, as opposed to I'm doing this action because this is what I want the outcome to be. Is, I think, the main difference between the two.
Well, no, if you react, then that means you're coming from your memory, from your past habit. And what Sam says, not to react. That's the only
Be careful. There are two elements. You either react or you respond. React is caused by your mental and emotional coloring in the background. When you react, it's going to be primarily through your emotional and desire centers. If you respond, it's going to be more based on your intellectual response. And it's the intellectual response which is very relevant as far as I understand it, because you are saying, I need to respond to this, but this is the way based on my understanding, this is the best response. And so I will do that. Whatever happens, happens.
Exactly, because when you react, you're coming from your memory. When you're responding, you're coming from your awareness.
Yeah, thank you. In a nutshell. Thank you.
So can you see in this life what's wrong, what's good in a previous life? So if you analyze your life at this moment, for example, can you see your mistake you done in a previous life? Or will be difficult to understand what's happened in a karma point of view, respect to your life before?
I think it depends very much upon your level of understanding and intelligence in this life.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah.
Because you've got a lot of people who don't even want to think about this sort of thing at all. They just want to, react and live. So they want to know that.
Yeah, but if you are in a good process of the awareness of the evolution, you can understand what's happened in a previous life exactly if you analyze the pain in this life.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, I think you're probably good.
Yeah, it's fine. It's possible.
But would it not be restricted to your current awareness of what your current environment is? You won't be able to go beyond that. But yeah, that would make sense. That's a good one. Thank you, sir. Yes, I like that.
Do you want to carry on the 15? Okay, the question about 15 is this one. Number 49, no?
Yep, that's it. A wise person sees all worldly experiences as blank. So as long, oops,
15, this one.
15, yeah. A wise, discriminating person sees all worldly experiences as painful because of reasoning that all these experiences lead to more consequences, anxiety, and deep habits, as well as acting in opposition to the natural qualities. Okay, so carry on now. Discrimination comes in time. Seeing all worldly experiences as painful is not a mere opinion or belief system that one cultivates because of following some certain spiritual path. Rather, it comes from the process of discrimination, and this takes time and practice. By repeatedly seeing the process of the playing out of samskaras, leading to more deep impressions, and again recycling, the yogi comes to conclude for himself or herself that the entire process is bringing nothing but pain in the long run. Wisdom is not depression. To simply read this, that everything worldly brings pain can seem rather depressing or fatalistic. This is definitely not the case. This insight comes with wisdom, with seeing clearly the nature of the temporal process. The yogi feels a sense of joy in this insight, as it causes an even greater drive towards self-realization, the direct experience of that external self, which is not subject to change, death, decay, or decomposition. Name and form of the prime elements. The yogi comes to see that the primal elements, or gunas, sattvas, rajas, and tamas, just keep changing names and forms. It is that incessant transitioning process that is seen to be not worthy of continuing unabated. Eventually, through the practice of yoga, the gunas themselves are resolved back into their cause, leading to liberation. Going in the wrong direction. The yogi also comes to see that all of these activities are outward bound, moving directly in the opposite direction from the eternal self. Because of that insight, he or she wants even more strongly to go inward in pursuit of the direct experience of pure consciousness or purusha. Okay.
So, for example, the experience, okay, this one, discrimination comes in time. All the experience, they say that they see all worldly experience. Do you think is give you the pain, or is it just?
It depends how you look at it, doesn't it? I mean, technically, it should give you pain because no matter what you do, you're still going back into the same cycle of you hurting yourself and then having to learn more again and experience more again. It's a bit like, you go to, you start with kindergarten and go work your way through school, but every time you say, I've got to learn more, I've got to learn more, I've got to learn more. So it can seem to be a bit painful.
Yeah, because you're never happy with what you have. You're always hoping for something better.
Yeah. You're hoping for something better, but it keeps on continuing to not be as good as you expect. So you always it's always a bit of a non-experience, to use a phrase.
But the world experience in this life is a part of this our life. It's not possible to eliminate completely. So we need to live the world experience in a good way.
I think it's just teaching us how to develop equanimity, not to cling on to the pleasures or resisting pain. It's just recognizing that each experience is transient, it's impermanent, and that just helps us create that inner peace and not react or just be equal to whatever external circumstances come in, not to cling on to all the pleasures, but to understand that there is also the other side, the flip side, where there's pain, and just to treat it equally, to not create that extreme suffering, but also to realize that pleasure is there, but you shouldn't just try to go to that direction. I don't know.
Like
Yeah.
even pleasure is impermanent,
Yeah.
and anything, bad is also. If one realizes that, then again, it's through experience. It's saying, isn't discrimination comes in time. In early life, you don't. You see everything bad, anything that, oh, and you react as, you're just talking about react. But as you go through these so-called painful, bad experiences, you grow and you learn. But only those people who can realize that this is impermanent, anything, good or bad. But that comes as you grow. Well, some are, wise to begin with, others are not.
Yes. I remember speaking
What
to
happens if
somebody
you
a
live
long
in the
time.
moment?
Sorry, go on. Go on.
What happens if you live in the moment?
So do you get that? What happens to what?
If you live in the moment all the time.
Yes.
But I think that way of thinking also comes with experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, one has to see when you're in early life, well, most of us did not live in the moment, but as we have, gained gyan, this knowledge that we are given, we begin to understand that and begin to live in the moment. And yes, that is the way then to be more in balance and respond rather than react.
So when we saw in the past sutras where Patanjali said, it doesn't matter how many books, how much knowledge you have, you can still not elevate yourself. You cannot liberate you. Because knowledge is weak. If knowledge was liberating, we could all read books and become liberated. But what you just now said, experience. Experience is a good teacher. Once you experience a lesson, you will never forget it. You don't need to know anything more about it because you have experienced it. And experience is a good teacher. So, yes, that's the whole point because you experience with awareness and eventually it brings you to living in the moment. Because you know the past is not there, it's only in your mind. And because of the past, because you say, oh, I hope it's going to become better, because of the past, you have now created the future. You see? So
you're quite right about the experience. You're right about that. But alongside with bit of knowledge, yeah, it's no point. You're quite right also that just reading about things and going through all this is enough. No, it has to be brought into practice, right? When an experience. So the two, in my view, I might be wrong, is that the two go hand in hand. With some, maybe they don't need the knowledge. They think they know it. Or they are blessed with it,
yeah, because it was just one of the sutras where they say, Patanjali said, knowledge alone is not enough to liberate you. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have.
Absolutely.
Still cannot be liberated. You need the experience. You need to understand the knowledge through experience.
I think this is one of the issues which we have in the current, if I can use the scientific environment, isn't it? That you've got so many people doing all sorts of experiments and getting some kind of knowledge, but it's not being used in the right way. They've got some knowledge. Oh, this happens when you do this. This happens when you do this, and that that knowledge is simply being used to create either new drugs or new vaccines or new cars or new whatever. But nobody is stopping and saying, hang on a second, it's all very well, but where is this leading to? It's all very well for us to create all the new vaccines, or it's all very well to create all the new cars with all these fancy electronics and things in them, because we can do it. But how is that actually helping our environment? How is it helping the people? How is it helping our development of the society? That's not being looked at. So
now you see, you have created in yourself a lot of expectation. And this is what causes suffering. Because now you are expecting scientists to do this, that, and the other, and not to behave this way and look after the environment. And this is the problem. Because we create our own suffering. We are the source of our own suffering.
No. I think you misunderstood what I was trying to say. All I'm trying to say is that everybody, a majority of the people are simply acting, and I've got this bit of knowledge. Now, how can I progress this knowledge to do this with this thing, or how to make something that'll work with this bit of knowledge? And it's okay, oh, this is great. Now, it then becomes a snowball effect. The more I know about something, the more I want to implement it in some ways to make it look, I've done this something fantastic. Originally, you just had a basic car with a steam engine, and you turn the engine on, and it started rolling forward. You turn the engine off, it stopped. Then they said, okay, let's do something a bit better, and then better and better. But nobody is saying, okay, how is this really going to help me, my society, my environment, and so on?
This is the point. Why are you worried about the society? Why are you worried about the environment? For what reason? Can't you see? You are the source of your own misery. I'm talking Patanjali. I'm not talking about what the point you're making. I understand the point you're making.
But the point I'm making is also
that is for society and living and for the Maya. But coming back to Patanjali, and we talk about Patanjali, you see, I'm not talking about you alone. When I say you, I don't mean you personally, us. But we are the source of our own misery because we expect too much out of things. We think that scientist should do the right thing and look after the environment and this and that. That is our expectation.
No. You misunderstood what I was trying to say. What I'm saying is, I am expecting to do this for myself. But what I'm saying is, these other scientists and other people, depending upon their level of understanding and intelligence and intellect, or whatever you like to call it, are reacting in a particular way, and nobody's, and there's no nobody telling them from either young age or middle age or old age, look, have you thought about what you've been doing? Have you thought about the consequences of what you've been doing, is what I'm talking about. I don't care what they're doing. I appreciate it's under my control. But just as a matter of process.
Come back to Patanjali.
Yeah.
So something inside you, now I just don't take you because you are the example, so don't take it personally.
Sure.
But something within you is making you behave like that. And this is the reason why we have to clear the past impressions, because within us, we build certain type of impressions and habits that when something happens, all that it comes up and it makes us behave in that particular manner. And then we start building new karma. So the thing for this, Patanjali did explain earlier how to, because when we started reading, he said the coloring, but he never said how do you remove the coloring. So within you have certain colorings. And I'm just using this example now because of the scientists, what you said, and why they're not doing this and that. But that's coming up from within you because of things of your colorings inside you. if you ask somebody else, for example, with the same situation, would say, oh, they're doing a wonderful job, fantastic.
Yeah,
When you see another person, they say, no, they're not doing a good job. But that's because of the coloring within us, the habits and coloring. And this is just the trigger that brings it all up. And this is why we have to clear all those things so we don't build more karma.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Okay, we have 5 minutes. I'd like to finish with the last one. I don't want to stop your discussion, but if you want to say something, you can continue. But I like, because we have 5 minutes, I like to finish with the last one, 2.616.
So which worldly experiences does the yogi seek to avoid? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So,
This one.
yeah. Because the worldly experiences are seen as painful, it is the pain which is yet to come that is to be avoided and discarded. Currently manifesting, 3 consequences of birth, span of life, and experiences may be playing out in the current time or life, and may be experienced as pain or pleasure. One has to deal with these impressions and their actions or karmas in the here and now. Manifesting later. Other samskaras of the karmasya are not driven by their current coloring or life circumstance to play out at the present moment. They remain in their latent form, in the latent part of the mind, destined to come to life and play out later. Explore the latent. The yogi comes to the point of practices where it is not only the currently manifesting karmas that are dealt with, rather he or she intentionally explores the unconscious processing part of the mind and the latent part of the mind so as to uncover, attenuate, and eliminate the coloring of these deep impressions, as was described in Sutra 2.4. In this way, the effects of those deep impressions are discarded, avoided, or prevented. Then the absolute or pure consciousness behind the veil can be experienced. As sensitive as the surface of the eyeball. In describing how yogi wants to avoid the pain that is still to come, the commentator Vyasa says that the yoga's perception has become as sensitive as the surface of an eyeball. It is because of this highly refined sense of self-awareness that he or she discovers the future karmas in the karmasya and wants to deal with them long before they have the chance to come to fruition. The seer and the seen. The key to this process of avoiding future karmas is breaking the tie between the seer and the seen, as described in the remaining sutras of this section.
So the sufferings, the future sufferings can be changes the moment when you start to see your life in the moment, exactly this moment, and it's like what you say, Vinu, leave the moment. Okay, so what's happened in the past is a part of your karma, and this is not possible to change. But the moment when you leave, when you are present, any moment, you can change your karma. You can transform your destiny in liberation.
This is because of the cause and effect. Something in the past life, you've done something, that is the cause. And the effect you're getting now, which they call the fruit. So what Patanjali is saying, that you, with awareness, you have to travel into your life and see, I mean, this is a difficult bit, and I don't understand it either, is you have to go and find the root cause of the effect. And then you have to dissolve that cause. If you dissolve that cause, you will have no more effect in your future. And this is how you clear your karmas for the future. Because you have to go back to the root of the cause and destroy that cause and then the effect will be taken care of.
Isn't he actually saying here that you got in your unconscious mind, you've got, or as you call it, unconscious or the latent mind, latent part of the mind, is where you can find more of your latent karmas, which you need to be aware, become fully aware of. And when you become aware of that, you are able, depending upon how you act on it, are you able to effectively dissolve those karmas before they become action.
Get rid of the cause, and then the effect won't happen.
Yeah, so you eliminate the problem before it actually starts manifesting, as it were. Yeah. Makes sense.
Sorry, but it's 10 o'clock.
No problem.
We finish at 10 o'clock because otherwise we'll be, you know,
Yes,
it's not correct. So I can